Hello everyone, this is LNURL 101. My name is Santos Fernandez. I am the business lead of tech and product at Zebedee. The goal of this presentation is to teach you the basics of LNURL. Why was it created? What problems does it solve? How does it work? A bit about the company that I work for. We power real economies in virtual worlds. We have 50 plus employees. We're a veteran Lightning company. We're 100% remote, and we have combined 50 plus years in fintech and gaming, and we're pioneering new Lightning frontiers. So a brief introduction before we get into LNURL to set the context and give you some background understanding in case you haven't really heard of or seen Bitcoin's Lightning Network before. Lightning is a way that enables Bitcoin to become highly scalable, final, and very cheap to send. It's a global money, so we covered that it's also very cheap. Since it relies upon Bitcoin's blockchain, it is ultra secure. Transactions arrive with final settlement, meaning that they cannot be reversed. So there are no billing or fraud disputes. Transactions are instantaneous, and you can send atomic sized amounts of value, so fractions of a cent. Invoices. So this is a Bolt 11 invoice. This is what kind of a pay flow looks like between generating an invoice and paying an invoice. So step one, Bob wants Alice to pay him. So Bob creates an invoice after specifying an amount, expiration, and description. Bob copies the invoice and shows it or sends it to Alice. Alice receives the charge, and then Alice needs to scan or copy the Lightning invoice URI. Already sounds quite a bit complicated. Alice copies the invoice URI and pastes it into her Lightning wallet or scans the invoice, and then Alice confirms and pays the invoice. And at that time, Bob has received Alice's tip. So this is what a success flow looks like. So ultimately, there are many things that can kind of happen between these last three steps. Essentially, that invoices have an expiration time. So if you don't pay the invoice within the expiration time, the payment fails. So that can be quite a problem. And then there's some other limitations as well. So you must specify the amount and description as the creator of the invoice upfront. So users are not able to pay over the amount or specify an amount to pay you. We covered number 2. And the last bullet point is that you kind of have this synchronous communication where you, as the creator of the invoice trying to charge for something, must share this invoice with the person that you want to pay or that you want to pay you. So what is LNURL? LNURL stands for Lightning Network URL, like a website. LNURL is a payment orchestration system that enables better user experience and ease of use. What can LNURL do? Well, it can enable asynchronous Lightning payments. It can allow for platform withdrawals / user deposits, and it can allow for authentication. So we talked about the problems of Bolt 11 invoices. So this is the solution statement. It's LNURL Pay. Payments can be asynchronous with LNURL Pay. The sender can specify an amount and a custom comment to send to you, and it's one QR code that is static. So you don't actually, another issue that wasn't covered in the previous slide, but that invoices are only payable once. So even if someone wanted to pay you twice the same invoice, it's actually not possible. Upon payment or expiration, the invoice becomes, you cannot pay it twice. So LNURL Pay is essentially a static invoice. It has a website link behind the scenes that will fetch an invoice, essentially an LNURL. So this allows for the user to scan and pay the same invoice over and over again for any amount that they specify, allowing for new sorts of interactions on the web or within Lightning products. This is the LNURL charge flow. So Alice finds a creator that she really loves and wants to tip them. So Alice has to pull out her phone or manually copy the Lightning URI if she knows how, and then Alice will actually scan or paste the static charge into her Lightning wallet and confirm the payment and success. Bob, the creator, has received Alice's tip. So it's quite a bit more simple and way less points of friction than the Bolt 11 invoice flow. So how does it actually work behind the scenes? Well, a user will scan an LNURL Pay QR code or click a button that contains an LNURL Pay encoded message, which is just like a string of text. The user will enter the amount on a UI, and then behind the scenes within the server itself, the app requests from the LNURL server an invoice for the specified amount. LNURL server returns an invoice for the specified amount back to the application, and then the application pays the returned invoice. After that, the user has successfully paid. So that's how the flow works at a high level. So there's a bit of a problem here that we hinted at on the slide where it was showing the actual user flow, and that is that the user must still take out their phone and scan a QR code. They also could copy the static charge encoded message and paste it into the application, but that would also require a manual effort. And when you do copy that encoded message or string, it's not human readable, so it's quite scary to the end user. So the solution to this problem is Lightning address. It's a human readable identifier or internet identifier. There are new UX flows that are possible now that this is enabled. That you can actually do like a very new style of withdrawal where if you want to allow users to withdraw, instead of using the QR code, you can actually just send a payment to Lightning address. We'll kind of touch on this later on. It's as easy as sending a payment, sending an email. So you can send a payment to someone's Lightning address as simple as you can send an email. It enables for really easy receives, because if I want like Joe to pay me, I can just say, Joe, send me 5 Satoshis or sats to santos@zbd.gg, and I'll show the interface and what that looks like. It's that simple. So this is what a Lightning address looks like. It looks just like an email, but it's for receiving value at any time. And typically it'll be kind of prefixed with a little lightning bolt to symbolize this is a Lightning address. So this is the payment flow that I was describing to you all before. This is Lightning address payments in action. Alice wants to send a friend a payment using Lightning address, using a provider. Step 2, Alice types in her friend's Lightning address and the amount she wants to send. She reviews and confirms the payment information. So this is what it looks like in the Zebedee browser extension, and this is common for many applications that have Lightning address payments enabled. You can just literally type in the amount and the Lightning address, which looks like an email, and then hit send, and it sends Bitcoin off to Bob, where Bob is actually using a self-hosted Lightning address and allows him to receive Alice's payment directly into his own custody. So this is pretty powerful if you think about it. She's using a provider, like a Lightning service provider, and then Bob's using a self-hosted solution. So there's a lot of interoperability and a lot of progression that can be made there. And it's so simple to do, and it can be done well on desktop and mobile. So here's the current withdrawal flow. This is if you're using like Bolt 11 invoices and you're like an intermediate to advanced user. So step 1, Bob wants to transfer funds from Cash App to the Zebedee app. Bob opens the Zebedee app and navigates to create an invoice. Bob fills out the form for the amount and description, then creates the invoice. Bob then has to copy the invoice and then Bob navigates in Cash App to the Lightning Send button and then paste the charge from the Zebedee app into the Cash App send field, or paste, then click send, and the funds are now sent to the Zebedee app, complete, sorry, that is old text, but that should say, complete, Bob has transferred the funds from the Zebedee app to the Cash App. So quite a lot of steps here, and you really need to know what you're doing. There's a lot of different places that the user could get confused, like dealing with the encoded message, knowing how to switch between the applications, which application to start with to create the charge, and then which application to use to pay it. It's not super intuitive, and then you kind of have to, generate the amount, and then you have to pay on the other side. It's a lot of effort switching between these applications, and lots of different opportunities for things to go wrong, and for the user to abandon the transfer flow and abandon kind of Lightning altogether. So that leads us to our problem statement that desktop and mobile experiences can be extremely complicated and variable to use and understand. It requires a lot of understanding of both applications, so both Cash App and the Zebedee app, or whichever wallet app that you're using, and a lot of knowledge of the Lightning Network to execute. So LNURL withdrawal request, a method of allowing the user to withdraw their funds asynchronously from a platform. So all they have to do is take out their phone, or click a button, or click a QR code is a common pattern, and it can be open to be handled by a browser extension like Albi or Zebedee, as a Zebedee browser extension as an example, or the user can take out an app like Moon Wallet, scan it, and then have the funds automatically deposited within their control. So like, it's very interoperable, and it's much easier than the flow that we just talked about. I mean, all they have to do is click or scan, and they can be that simple to then have their funds deposited into their favorite Bitcoin Lightning wallet app. All right, so here's LNURL withdrawal request in action. So step 1, Jane wants to deposit sats into her wallet from the Zebedee platform. Alice scans the QR code and clicks confirm withdrawal, and then that's it. Jane receives the funds right into her app. So really straightforward. The experience works the same on desktop. Instead of scanning with the phone, they would just click the QR code or click the button, which then, if they have a browser extension, will handle it really easily in the same fashion. So here's the diagram. So the user scans the LNURL withdrawal request, or clicks the button containing the LNURL withdrawal request encoded message. They click confirm withdrawal, and then behind the scenes, the app requests from an LNURL server an invoice for the withdrawal amount to be paid. The LNURL server then pays the invoice for the specified amount, and then the user successfully deposits their funds or transfers it from one platform to another application. So that's straightforward. The last piece to LNURL that I'm going to cover is LNURL auth. It's a method of authentication. It's not associated with Lightning directly, and there's increased privacy due to the per key domain, enabling no cross-site tracking. So this is what it can look like. I pulled an example of a button or the flow from stacker.news, which is a really awesome product. If you haven't checked it out, it's stacker.news. It's the domain, and it's like Hacker News, but way better because there are sats infused within it, and it uses the Lightning Network. So what happens basically is, as a user, you'd click this login with Lightning. You'll be taken to another page where you would scan this, and then you would be able to complete the remainder of the flow in an application like Blue Wallet. That's an app that supports it. It basically asks if you want to log in. You hit accept, and then you're good to go. It allows you to be logged in with Lightning, or LNURL. There's no passwords, and it has the maximum possible privacy, and I'll explain kind of how and why on the next, not this slide, but the following slide. And we just talked about this flow. So basically, you click login with Lightning, you scan the QR, or you can copy and paste the encoded message, and then you click authenticate, and then you're logged in. So it's really, really straightforward. So how does LNURL auth work? Well, the user will scan a QR or paste it that has a callback and challenge. So within the wallet application, after it's scanned, with the same seed phrase as your Bitcoin wallet, it can then take an LNURL auth key called K, and then it'll essentially run HMAC function, which then puts in the auth key, the LNURL auth key and the domain, which it'll derive a secret key specific for that website. So then there's a secret key, and then it does call back to the domain with the public key that's generated from your secret key, plus a signature that is a secret and the challenge to prove that it is you that is logging in. And the domain now knows you by pub key, and it associates it with your username. So really slick way of doing authentication and doing more with less with the same seed phrase. I think that's really neat, and it allows for some really cool use cases. And it has so many benefits to increase your privacy, as well as not have to deal with the password. And it also prevents like phishing attempts too, since that it takes in the domain as a part of generating the secret key. So even if the domain is slightly different, the hash that's outputted is obviously significantly different than what it would be if it was like 5ontos.com versus 5ontos with an extra S at the end. So this is the end of my presentation. I think LNURL is a really great way of achieving this Bitcoin circular economy in a digital way. LNURL Pay, since their static charges can be thrown on brochures, flyers, and help many nonprofits and charities just receive money as easy as taking out your phone and scanning a QR code on this printed page to then contribute any amount of value instead of having these minimums of like $10 or $25. You can collect a lot more funds if you're trying to make a specific change in the world. You can associate them with items. Lightning address allows for this really easy way of like texting value. At that point, you can use it to do all kinds of new flows. Like a survey application could have you put in your Lightning address before you start a survey, and then every time you answer a question, send you like 1 sat for completing a question. So it allows for some really new and interesting functionality and really this easy, seamless transference of value. So I want to thank some individuals for their help. My lovely wife, Heidi, Andre, for being a great teacher, Viet Joff for teaching me and creating LNURL, and then Zach Murray for reviewing. Thank you all. And if you want to connect with me, you can check out my zbd.gg/Santos page. It has my other socials there. And then if you want to send me a tip, that's my Lightning address. And thank you for watching and being patient throughout this presentation. Apologies that I had a few errors there. I should have checked those more closely beforehand. So thank you and take care. Have a great rest of your evening. Go ahead and show some examples of LNURL in action. So here is like my Zebedee gamer tag page. I'm gonna go to Andre's right now. So this is actually like a static charge. So any LNURL supported wallet would actually be able to scan this and pay it. You can also see an example of an LNURL pay, or what we call at Zebedee static charges, so on my screen. And that's actually associated with the product that we built called Zebedee Streamer. If you sign up for Zebedee, you can actually get access to Streamer and get your own static charge. So then you can scan that and pay it, and it'll actually flash a tip on my screen, like a tip message on my screen. So let's go ahead and get started showing an example here. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. I have my Zebedee browser extension installed. I can send in a payment. Live stream payment. Yo. So I'm going to go ahead and pay that, enter my PIN, and now the payment was successful. And I was able to pay Andre. And now I can actually do this again and again and again. So I can do that as many times as I want. Cool. So that's LNURL pay. So now let me go ahead and show you like an LNURL withdrawal. So you can go ahead and create an LNURL withdrawal. You can pay this invoice. So I can go ahead and generate it. So now once it's paid, it'll go ahead and show me the LNURL withdrawal, which it's down over here. So I can go ahead and open this and show, okay, I'm going to go ahead and confirm my withdrawal. And there we go, got the 100 sats back. It's been updated. So that's how easy it is to complete an LNURL withdrawal. Now let me go ahead and show a Lightning address payment. There we go. So now I just sent a Lightning address payment to Fiatjoff at LNTXBot. So it's literally as easy as sending an email to complete payments.